So I think one of the things that can be challenging with using OER resources is that it can be overwhelming to know where to start. It can be kind of like you going one professor in the first initiative at UNF said it's like going down Alice in Wonderland's rabbit hole, right? Because you begin researching and finding stuff and you just can't even get lost. So we try to think of this as like where you can begin. So I'm going to go through this on a different screen in a second. That's what I was initially going to, so that we could talk about things like the Open Education Resources LibGuide, which talks about below, you'll see some examples of resources that professors have used to find OER resources currently. And one of the professors in the panel discussion talked about OpenStax. It's a very popular one, LibreText, and I'll take you through a few of these. The other thing you want to always remember is that nothing is equal. And as odd as that sounds, it's true. You know, a communications professor could go through an OER session with Sarah and myself and find everything within 2-3 sessions. Whereas Sarah might have a construction and management class that's so much more involved. And so I wanted to give you some examples that are live. So let's go back to this page. All right, so for those of you who haven't used the OER LibGuide, it's right down here on this little book that says library guides. And I tried to make it with Sarah as simple as possible to find. So if you just type in OER and you hit search, any of these pages will take you there. It really doesn't matter which one. So if I go to OER COAS, that takes you just to the basic clarifying look what OER is. So like if you ever have questions, because that can be a problem, that you may have questions about copyright. Professors talked in the panel discussion about using YouTube videos or websites or articles, Twitter feeds, all of these things, you know, you might think about like fair use or copyright information. And I think like the four of us see this all the time. We get questions, and actually all instructional designers that work with OER face that kind of situation where, you know, you're not really sure what is feasible. So if you go into the database and OER page, I wanted to show you a few options. So for instance, if we start off with Galileo, so this is an ebook collection. So a lot of professors, this is, I think, the biggest, hardest thing to get out of your head. Most professors at this point in our lives, we have classes that had textbooks. And now we have generations of students who are entering a class that there's not a typical textbook. It's not just really simple defined. So you can go here and find all of these different resources. Now, what Sarah and I did was we broke it down by college. So Brooks College of Health, COAS to be specific, Cogn and STEM in general. And the cool thing about this is that if you go into, say, the ebook collection and you go into Galileo, I just wanted to show you some basic like search options. You can see that it targets all around the world, all different types of collections, and you kind of just have to jump in. Putting your toes in and getting them wet doesn't really do it, because you'll get pretty much overwhelmed with the idea of, oh my gosh, it's like finals week in college, and like when you were a student and you just get overwhelmed.